The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The Steve Austin Show is sponsored in part this week by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code AUSTIN for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting over here at 317 Gimmick Street, looking out through the window, and I'll tell you what, it is dark, it's gray, it's cloudy, and it's raining in Los Angeles, California. Hallelujah. Holy smokes. It's about time we got some rain over here. L.A. is known for its impeccable weather, 24/7, 365. As a matter of fact, L.A. has the best weather year-round out of any place I've ever been to in my life. So finally, when we get a little bit of rain over here and it gets dark and cloudy, it is a beautiful day for myself. I dig the rain. Like the sunny days too, but a little bit of rain goes a long way for me. I'm digging the vibe as I look out this damn window. Anyway, god dang, let's talk about this today. Tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific Coast time, Alabama Crimson Tide takes on the Georgia Bulldogs. God dang, man, I'm looking forward to this national championship game. SEC, two SEC teams in the mix, fighting it out for the national championship. Who's going to be able to pull it off? The matchups all across the board are off the charts. I tell you what, man, Kirby Smart, the former defensive coordinator for Nick Saban in Alabama, took the head coaching job over at Georgia. This is his second season there, I believe. He's done an unbelievable job. Man, you got Nick Chubbs, Sony Michel over there running the football. Man, I love that kid, Jake Fromm, the Georgia quarterback. Man, I believe he's a true freshman. Man, he's going to have a great career ahead of him. We'll see what he does tonight. Man, over there for Alabama, was it Damian Harris and then Bo Scarborough, those guys playing with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. The guy's a sneaky, fast runner, very strong. Man, he doesn't throw the ball downfield great. I think both these guys are going to be kind of, as a lot of these articles I'm reading about, going to kind of be managing the football game tonight. But I tell you what, man, that Fromm, he made some good throws last week. And we'll see what happens. But I tell you what, I'm pulling for the Alabama Crimson Tide tonight. They're my favorite team in college football. I'm a big Nick Saban fan. I like what he's done at all the programs that he's coached at. But, man, I tell you what, I'm also a fan of, I like Georgia football. Going back to my days when I was in high school, my favorite running back in college football history is Herschel Walker. And I'll never forget, watching all those Georgia Bulldog games when Herschel would get that football and at about 6'2", 222, with that man, 4'3", 4'4", whatever 40 he was running. He was the fastest guy in the world, just built like a brick house. That big badass neck, and he was just bouncing off people and running downfield. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. And, man, and that's with all due respect to Bo Jackson's career at Auburn. But, man, Herschel Walker was my favorite running back of all time in college. I always wish he would have gone to the NFL, before he went to the New Jersey Generals in that football league. I thought his pro career could have been a whole lot different. But anyway, back to the college scene. I got a lot of love for Georgia. I've always enjoyed the Dogs. I enjoy all of the teams in the Southeast Conference. But, I'm a Crimson Tide guy. I'd be interested to see what happens tonight in this game. It's a defensive matchup. Both teams got these badass, stout defenses. And Alabama, man, last week against Clemson, I thought Clemson was going to move the ball a little bit better than they did on them. And the Alabama defense was just really shut down everything they tried to do. And then against Oklahoma, man, Nick Chubbs and Sony Michel, man, they busted off some big-ass runs, and Oklahoma's defense wasn't strong enough to stop those guys. And it was a shootout. It went down to the wire, went down to the end. But, man, Alabama's got a lot better defense than Oklahoma had, and that's with respect to Oklahoma. A lot of you people, I'll always cheer for Oklahoma a lot of times. My mother was born in Guthrie, Oklahoma, which gives me that street cred to cheer for the Sooners when I want to. I was born in Austin, Texas, so I can cheer for the Texas Longhorns when I want to. But they ain't involved in the game. It's Alabama versus Georgia. I'm the biggest college football fan in the world. I'm looking forward to seeing how this matchup goes defensively. It's going to be a hellacious struggle. I'm hoping the Crimson Tide pulls it out, no doubt. But if the Dogs end up winning, I think this will be their first championship since 1980. I guess that's when Herschel Walker played, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm looking forward to tonight, and it's going to be a great night of football action here at 316 Gimmick Street when I move next door. And I tell you what, man, NFL action yesterday and Saturday, which leaves us with the matchups going into next week. It's going to be Tennessee Titans at New England Patriots. God dang. Tennessee beat Kansas City. What in the hell happened? Kansas City laid an egg. No disrespect to the Tennessee Titans, but god dang, I just thought Kansas City was going to win this football game. Unbelievable. Hey, Mariota got off with a great performance, caught that ball that got batted back to him and scored a touchdown, but man, Kansas City laid an egg on that one. The way I'm looking at this, New England all the way. Tennessee always has a chance, but I just think going into that matchup next Saturday, New England's going to have obviously a huge advantage. And then going to Jacksonville Jaguars at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Holy smokes, man, I watched part of that Jacksonville Jaguars game against Bills, and man, it wasn't the greatest game in the world in Jacksonville. Their offense against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, you know, that's going to be the story. What Pittsburgh's offense can do against that Jacksonville Jaguars defense. They're stout, but I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is going to put any points on the board against that Pittsburgh defense. So I'm going Pittsburgh in that matchup coming up next week. And as we move into the NFC, watched a couple of those games yesterday. Atlanta going to number 1 Philadelphia Eagles. God dang it, Atlanta, man, put it on the Los Angeles Rams. And I think it was a mistake when they didn't play their regular team the previous week. And I think it took them out of rhythm. It took them out of sync. Man, I tell you what, there's a couple of times there where Jared Goff should have took off and run that football, a lot like Carson Wentz will do for the Philadelphia Eagles before he hurt his knee diving for that touchdown a couple of weeks ago. Jared, sometimes you got to tuck that ball to make a play, man. And I think he needs to get in the weight room, get a little stouter. He's a damn good quarterback. He's probably going to be great. But there's a couple of times he could have made some plays with his feet, and I just think he's got to get in that gym and just get a little bit stronger. So it's going to be Nick Foles taking over for Carson Wentz in this game, and, man, they haven't been clicking on all cylinders like they were with Carson Wentz. Man, probably would have been the MVP of the year. Also, I think Todd Gurley would have been in that running. Who was that other running back who would have been in the running? But anyway, Carson Wentz just had that team on fire. Doug Peterson's done a great job coaching that team up. This is going to be a good game, especially, like I said, with Carson Wentz not being there, Nick Foles filling in. Nick Foles got to be hitting on all cylinders. That's going to be a good matchup. I'm going to go Philadelphia, but Atlanta could damn sure pull it off. Matt Ryan's throwing the football good. That Atlanta defense is operating good. I'm going to go Philly, but, man, they're going to have to work hard, and Nick Foles is going to have to get off if those guys get past the Falcons. That's going to be a tough game. And then here's the matchup. New Orleans Saints put away the Panthers yesterday. I watched that football game, and they couldn't put it away. Carolina came back, scored that one touchdown, made it a 5-point game, whatever it was. And New Orleans Saints get by the Carolina Panthers to go to Minnesota. God dang, Minnesota got that badass defense. Case Keenum took over the quarterback position, and he's had a damn good year. These guys have been interesting to watch because, what's that guy's name? What's their head coach? Is that Mike Zimmer? That dude's been has those guys on fire. So they're playing damn good football. Case Keenum's done a good job over there. New Orleans Saints, holy smokes. You talk about accurate yesterday. Holy smokes. Drew Brees is playing lights-out football. Man, I tell you what, that one receiver they have has caught almost 200 passes in 2 years. Michael Thomas, holy smokes, number 13. Man, that guy had a hellacious game. He lit them up for, 1-7 versus the Panthers. He had 8 receptions for 131 yards. Hell, the damn broadcast team, they gave him props a couple of times, but they didn't talk about him near enough. He was one of the big reasons that the Saints won that damn football game. So I'll tell you what, Drew Brees is on fire. That dude's a hell of a receiver. Man, I love that tandem running back of Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram Jr. That's going to be interesting to see what they can do against that Minnesota Vikings defense. Man, I don't know a whole lot about Minnesota's offense other than Case Keenum is coming there and really taking over and done a great job. So that's going to be a great game. If Drew Brees is on fire and he lights it up, the New Orleans Saints can damn sure beat the Minnesota Vikings. But I'm thinking that Minnesota defense is just going to be too stout, and I'm going Minnesota in this endeavor. So, man, it's been a great last couple of weeks of football in the collegiate side of the spectrum and the pro side. So tonight I'm looking forward to Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm going Crimson Tide. I don't pick scores. I don't know the odds, the favorites, all that bullshit. I don't pay attention to all that. I'm picking Crimson Tide to win the game. If Georgia wins, hey, more power to them. Been since 1980. It's if they're able to beat Nick Saban and that Crimson Tide, they certainly have earned it. Those two, both of those programs, I give a shout out to both of them, outstanding programs, and Kirby Smart has done a great turnaround job over there of just taking, not really a turnaround, but taking the Georgia Bulldogs to the next level after Mark Richt departed to go down here to Miami, where he lit those guys up, and then that season kind of fell apart at the end. But nonetheless, man, I'm just fired up about football. It's all coming to a head. Great playoff games, and then to college football final tonight for the national championship. Anyway, my guest today here on the podcast is none other than Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoyed talking to Ed, and he came back on the show. We're talking about a little bit of his book he's trying to promote out there. It's called Strut and Cutting. It's at BrutusBeefcake.com. And that's who I'm talking to today. Talked for about an hour, shooting the breeze. Some of the questions that you guys sent in, the questions at SteveAustinShow.com. Hey, man, please send me in some questions. Send me in some topics that you want me to cover. And I will cover those things. I read all the emails. You guys send in your questions. I'm going to answer those questions to Brutus and talk a little bit about wrestling over there in Japan. But before we get to Brutus, let me tell you guys about SeatGeek. Because you see, buying tickets to sporting events and concerts, well, quite frankly, it can be complicated, it can be confusing, and it can be frustrating. You're not trying to do algebra on a roller coaster. Buying tickets should be simple. Well, do your damn algebra in the library like a normal person and get hip to SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event. Whether you're planning a night out or checking out a last-minute event, don't matter. SeatGeek is designed to make your ticket buying experience easier than ever, saving you time and money by comparing prices and finding amazing deals. And to get you the most bang for your buck, SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. So say hell yeah and make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports and concerts to comedy and theater. Best of all, listeners of the Steve Austin Show get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code AUSTIN. That's promo code AUSTIN for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase now.
Coming soon to Podcast One, Red Circle Sports with Dennis Miller. Get your weekend sports roundup every Tuesday exclusively from Podcast One and comedian Dennis Miller. He's going through and circling the most exciting headlines so you don't have to, and bringing you a lot of laughs along with them. Be sure to download new episodes of Red Circle Sports with Dennis Miller every Tuesday on the Podcast One app, Apple Podcasts, or at PodcastOne.com.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
I'm sitting here talking to Brutus Barber Beefcake. Beefcake lives down in Florida. I guess you was over in Boston. What were you doing over there? I heard you froze your ass off.
Wow, man, it was so cold. We hit the blizzard while I was there. Yeah, I was having to go take care of some old business in court, so I had to show up, and it was all good. It all worked out good. Only I just couldn't get out once I was there, Steve. I was there on Wednesday. I was like, I'll go to the airport, get a flight. You think there'd be a flight out of Boston going anywhere south. Not a single one. Everyone full. So I was stuck.
God dang, it sucks being, you ain't been in the wrestling business for a long time, and neither have I, but it sucks when you're in the business or just in life in general, and you're trying to get somewhere, and then, man, I heard about that blizzard blowing in on the East Coast, and it knocked everybody out. I always hated it. Chicago, Illinois is one of my favorite towns to ever wrestle in. I love the Rosemount Horizon, but Chicago is just as far as the weather's concerned. I mean, it could change on a dime. Didn't matter what time of the year it was, but particularly in the winter, and you would get screwed over there. I'd spent more time in O'Hare just because flights got delayed, and I used to hate, even if you just went through to get a connection, if you weren't even working in Chicago, I just hated going through there because of the weather.
O'Hare, right?
I love the town. I love to wrestle there, but I hate O'Hare and I hate the weather.
Hey, I showed up for a flight on the way home one day in the 80s. We were working every day. We had a day off. I'm at the airport at 6, and our plane is on the tarmac, and it's minus 35 with the wind chill. And it's so cold that the airplane, all the hydraulic seals have shrank, and now it's leaking fluid, so we can't take off. So they got to drag the plane back to the hangar, warm it up, go through everything, fill it up, check it, then drag it out back to the gate, and then board it so fast everybody runs on the plane, and we take off before the plane freezes up. Is that some crazy shit?
Well, my deal was, my MO, man, when I was running hard, it would be real cold. We'd be there somewhere in the Northeast, and they'd start de-icing that damn plane. And, you know, I don't like to fly to begin with because basically you're in a tube with wings, and you don't have a steering wheel in your hand. Two guys are up there flying your ass, and they bring the plane out there, and they start de-icing it, spraying all that shit on there to de-ice the plane. So I'm like, man, this is not good. Obviously, I'm here talking to you, so I survived every crazy tale that there ever was in the air. But my MO for that was either one, get a Bloody Mary, or two, get a vodka and orange juice. And I'd have a couple of those before we took off, and then I'd probably go to sleep for the rest of the flight. But I just hated the de-icing process because it made me nervous as hell.
Well, the thing is, in the winter, yeah, it's always. But when you get up high altitudes, it's cold all the time anyway. So they pretty much got it down to a science now. It's just some of these pilots, though, ain't the brightest bulbs on the tree, and that's what's going down. They've caught them drunk in the cockpit, this and that, bunch of guys. So I get scared, like, oh, I always go up there and look at them. Say, hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, okay, you look pretty sober. All right, good, we're good.
Yeah, I used to do the same thing, man. I'd do a pilot check. I would look and see, hey, man, who's flying the plane? And, make sure that they was cool. And, all these years later, you hear about them, sleeping, drinking, doing this, that, or whatever. I'll never forget, dude, one time I was doing before we jump into wrestling conversation, I'm just shooting a breeze with Ed Leslie, Brutus and Barber Beefcake. He's got his book out, Strutting and Cutting, on BrutusBeefcake.com. But I remember way back in the day, I can't remember what year it was, I was doing some monster truck events, and they were flying me on a private jet. And I was on the exact same jet. The same two pilots who were flying me were flying Payne Stewart. Many years later, and remember the jet decompressed. They lost all oxygen. Everybody passed out. Ouch. And Payne Stewart was a very famous golfer at the time, and that plane just kind of kept going. That jet kept going, and everybody was asleep, and it ultimately crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll never forget that, man, because I was like, it wasn't too long after I was on that airplane that it went down. It was just kind of weird.
Wow. You're like me, man. I've been doing the airplane thing for 40 years. There's been flights all over the planet, and it's been just like, good luck, walk away smiling, like, here we are again. We're just smiling after that one. Lightning strike on the engine, explodes. Emergency landing in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand. Flying a new engine, on your way straight in and straight to the show to do a Saturday night's main event. Me and Greg, bam, after 28 hours of flying all that shit. And then 3 falls. We wrestled the Bulldogs for 3 falls on 45 minutes on Saturday night main event. That was serious, man.
Hey, man, how was it working with Davey Boy and Dynamite? Because I know that Dynamite had a little bit of a mean streak. He was a big ribber. I was a huge fan of his work, and I guess if he liked you, he liked you, but if he didn't, he would rib you unmercifully. But I was a huge fan of his work, and I go back to some of his Stampede days when he was wrestling Bret the Hitman Hart, and they had some just classics when both of those guys were kind of young in the business, and they would go on to have the careers they had. But how did you like working with the Bulldogs?
Well, we loved it. But I mean, the thing was, Steve, when they came to us and Wyndham, we took the belts from Wyndham and Rotundo, and we're supposed to have at least a 9-month run with them. And then he quit. And Mike, so there's Mike left. They brought Spivey in to be a partner for and everything. So now all of a sudden they got to figure out something new. Bulldogs were great. They were good, but they were green still. I don't know how to describe it other than that. I mean, Dynamite has this thing. He worked in Japan a lot from years before. So we were friends. And Davey Boy and that whole thing, we were all great friends. So it worked out great, but we had to school them some. We had to really give them that more main event feeling to their work. We had to bring them up to the level we were at, so we'd have an opponent, because we were the heels, and that was some of the best learning in the business, where I learned so much was being a heel, and I had the best freaking time doing it, man. I loved it. It was so powerful out there as a heel to control the people and see the control you have over that crowd. And that was, because once you're a babyface, then you're like, you got your thing, but as a heel, you just have that different,
Yeah, but when you say school them, were you talking about more of the showbiz aspect of it? Because both guys were extremely mechanically proficient, and I would say Dynamite Kid would have a tendency to go a little bit more buzzsaw mode, and so you start working too fast and working too aggressive, and you're not as I think as a heel, I'm thinking you're referring to, hey, let it slow it down a little bit, let it all sink in, so you understand the showbiz aspect of it, because both guys could go, because Davey with the European England background, and Dynamite too. I mean, they could go, but you got to be talking more about the showbiz part of it.
I was trying to slow them down. And because everything, Davey Boy used to do these press slams on me. I'd be pushing off his shoulder blades with my hands. He'd got me up in the air and just tossed me across the ring. Boom! And I mean the bumps and stuff. But I trusted, and I trusted Dynamite too. Dynamite gave me 2 suplexes in the Maple Leaf Garden. We had a sold out show with the Bulldogs. All 4 got color back in the day. All 4 of us got color.
At a house show?
And all 4 of us. Patterson comes in before the show, goes, here, I want Dynamite to suplex you from the corner, from me standing on the top of the post, Dynamite from the top rope to take the big suplex. Because I hadn't taken it from anybody. If there's anybody I'd ever take it from, it'd be Dynamite, because I know how strong he is. I know he's going to be able to get me up. That's the only thing you worry about. The guy can't get you up and something and you collapse and whatever. I knew Dynamite's strong. So, bam, we went for it. We finished the match. Boom. It's all this bedlam out there. We're all color. They bring it back a month later to another sellout and another thing. We do the same finish again, me off the top rope, but this time we're on top, and we get our hands raised and we keep going with it. And, I mean, when tag teams are selling out the 25,000 seat Maple Gardens with a tag team match on the top. That's been a while.
Dude, you got to tell me what year that was, because when you're talking about a tag match and you got 4 guys getting color, you're talking about one match. Nobody gets color anymore. It's 2018. But back in the day, 4 guys getting color, that had to have been something.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. And when we brought it back and did it again, all 4 guys with color, and it's almost exactly the same finish, only this time we were the champs. They got their hands raised, so we came back, and then this time I got over on top. We were all out cold, like everybody's bleeding out, and my arm's over one of the Bulldogs, and we get the count 1, 2, 3. So we get our hands raised, and they're up, but we're down on the ground with their holding our hands up while we're laying on the mat. And the people are going bananas. People are going crazy.
Hey, man, what was your thoughts back in the day, when they'd call upon you to, draw a blade and get a little bit of color? Because these days, I mean, age started, I didn't know when age started, but, it kind of started really coming around mid-'80s. But, all the way up and through the late 90s and even 2000s before I quit, it was nothing but a thing to go out there, get some color. What was the mindset back in the day? All of a sudden, so the agent comes back and says, hey, man, all 4 of you guys are going to get color. I mean, are you like, hey, man, chomping at the bit? You ready to do this, or you're looking across at who you're working with. Hey, man, that guy parties a lot. What was your thought process? Because I was always a dude I did my first blade job in 89, right when I broke in. I mean, we were in a bloodbath there in the Sportatorium. There was about 10 of us. Everybody was handcuffed to ropes. And so it was nothing but a thing. And so the health consequences, and no one really thought about hepatitis C or any of that back in the day. But what was your thought process, when, hey, man, we need you to get some color, much less all four of you?
Wasn't back in the mid 80s, especially during this time, it wasn't that intense as far as the blood things going. I mean, I was a pretty boy face. So Greg, fortunately, me and Greg's old school brother, like and you don't remember his dad, and Greg really actually liked getting color because it made him. He wouldn't have to do anything. He'd friggin' take the fall down and then all of a sudden, bam, he'd come back to life and damn it, and then that'd be. And so he always would get color, but it didn't matter but that was one of the only times really that I can remember really that we ever had 4-man color. So we get it here and there, a cage match or something, a little bit, maybe him being, say me and him, I'd just say, Greg, just freaking gaff me. Because he had a blade, I said, just hit me, boom. So we'd love to get in a little bit of color, but it wasn't, never it was a problem. We had fun. We had a ball.
What was with the guys? Dusty was one of the guys. He'd go vertical, or he'd hit his shoulder. Or, Abby would go vertical. What were your thought on the vertical guys? I never quite get that because you want to go horizontal because that's the way the skin runs.
Yeah, well, Dusty, that was his whole deal because it was a shake that thing, boom, the elbow, and it was easy. It was just easier for him to hit it straight up and down. And there's other guys like Curtis. So if we talk about WCW, then we'll talk about Curtis. I'm talking about Ikea from Hawaii. Yeah. The King, because I grew up in Florida, and when I saw that guy, the King was on TV in Florida, from the falls of Diamond Head to the eggs, and he was talking about stuff in the thing, and I was like scared to death of him. He looked so big, and that robe thing he was always wearing. And then years later, even after that happened, then working with him when he brought him into WCW, had the Dungeon of Doom. It was what an opportunity. Hey,
man, I've heard so much about that guy, but I never crossed paths with him and I never met him. Was he the heavyset dude that was in the Dungeon of Doom?
Yeah, older. Yeah. If you look closely at his head, you'll see he's got the Dusty thing. And he used to hit the shoulders, too. They like to, whatever side, boom, it'd be either bang, bang, They always pretty much. But then Dusty was all cut up everywhere. But, he couldn't do anything else but cut.
How over was Curtis? Because, man, I've heard, I know Superstar Billy Graham was a big fan, Dusty was a big fan, and they just said that guy was the promo guy of promos. So what was it about that guy?
The promo guy. I never saw him work either, brother. He was always just the talking guy, and And that's I never actually did see him work either. It was always just on the mic. It was incredible. I asked
people to send us some questions on my email account, and I got some questions to ask you. But hey, man, when you left WWF and then you went down to WCW, I mean, all kinds of different gimmick changes. Just talk about your run in general in WCW, because coming off your success in the WWF, that run down there in WCW was just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it was. It was not well planned out on my part. Really talking to Vince more before I left. But I wound up, what we were doing was we did some TV work down in Orlando at Disney World. But first we even shot a feature-length film with Sam Jones and people in it, and called Thunder in Paradise. And then they did a television series, 23 episodes, which we filmed at the Disney World Complex. And so I did all pretty much of those. Sting, Neidhart, bunch of Jimmy Hart, a whole lot of guys got involved. Hercules was on some episodes and stuff, and so it was a pretty good gig. And then we were doing different stuff. The WCW deal, when I found out that Vince had trademarked Brutus Beefcake, because usually, like the guy, normally the person would trademark your name, and then if somebody wants to hire you, they license your name from it, do whatever they're going to do. But so they had filed for the trademark through the company, which I can understand. And so at that point, then WCW wasn't prepared to challenge them, so we weren't able to use Brutus Beefcake. So we had to improvise, and that was just all improvising at that point. We were doing a bunch of other stuff, but if that's what you do, I mean, that's what I do my whole life. And why, if you can't do something with wrestling after what I've already done in the past, if that doesn't make me a credential enough to say, okay, come on, we can do something here, then what would?
Right.
And it just was difficult.
How long were you on WCW?
Geez, I don't know. In 94, 95, we were filming down there, and then WC was filming in the same complex or in areas where we were filming, and so they were getting Hulk to always go over there with Jimmy. So a lot of times I'm with them all the time, off the set and stuff. So we were exposed to the WCW a bunch there. And then, they weren't really talking to me about bringing me in because they realized they couldn't use the name Brutus Beefcake. So they didn't know what to do with me. I don't know, maybe they just didn't want to get that much heat putting me on and blah, blah, challenging them. So it made it difficult for me. So it wasn't easy on me. But we were doing some stuff. We did a bunch of movies. I worked a lot and learned a lot. Did doing stunts and work in these films and these television shows. Long days, 24-hour days and shit, and a tough deal. But great experience, great fun. Just always helped out. I enjoyed it.
But what ultimately got you out of the business? When did you decide that it was time to get out?
Oh, well, just coming up to 60, coming on 60, and I actually was able to apply and get some assistance, to the government and stuff, with my condition, with my brain trauma and stuff, and then and everything. So I was able to get something through the government. So, at that point I was like, okay, and, so that's
how old were you when you left the business?
Just last year and a half ago, 2 years. 60.
Right. Okay. Pretty good run, kid.
40 years. Almost 41 years, man. Woo.
Here's a couple of questions that people sent in on the email. You ready to answer some?
You bet.
Kurt from Grand Prairie, Texas. I was here wondering what Brutus did post-match to chill out after the show. He knows that I would partake in a fair amount of drinking, but what about Brutus? Thanks. Love the show, and this is coming from Kurt Sanborn. So, Brutus, tell me about your chill out or your wind down after coming out of the ring. Adrenaline's going 100 miles an hour. So tell me what your procedure was post-match and then post-evening.
Well, we'd have a few drinks. Cocktails was usually the board affair. The boys would all head to a hotel bar, and man, we'd belly up and slam some drinks and some shots and stuff, and just nothing super special. But that was the general.
And that could go for a long time. But I mean, that was just for pretty much. I mean, you got your guys that are that'll go straight back to the room. I was one of the guys that didn't go straight back to my room. I wasn't a guy that liked to go out. I was always like to be the guy that was in the lounge at the hotel we were staying at. That way, I didn't have to drive, didn't have to deal with any BS. There's alcohol served there. There's people hanging around. I could kind of keep a low profile, but be around some of the boys or whatever else I wanted, but not have to go out on the town. Were you a town guy, or were you a lizard lounge, as Hillbilly Jim would always call me?
Lizard lounge, mostly lizard lounge. I mean, in some of the early days, though, I was getting out. I was going out. I was hitting some strip bars and shit. Geez, I didn't and stuff. And but I did pretty good. So it was it was good. And then finally, you got to calm it down some. Which I did, but.
But I'll tell you what, man, after being on the road for a couple of weeks, that haggard feeling would just kind of be a part of your everyday makeup. And hell, I tell you what, back in the days is, quite frankly, for me, it was 2 cups of coffee and a couple of Vikes to start the day, get up and run it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey, here's a question. And all these questions they're out of order. They're different timelines, so just bear with me. It says it's coming from James Whale. He says, can Mr. Beefcake talk about the Booty Man character, especially how the idea came about, etc.?
Booty Man. I don't know how the even was an idea. It's probably just Hulkster looking at me and wearing the outfits I was wearing and making a smart comment saying, look at the booty man. He's got a big booty sticking out. He's the booty man. I mean, that's something that would happen. He'd say, Beefcake, he's the booty man. So they were like, okay, he's the booty man. I mean, that's probably how it happened. Honestly, I have no clue. But at the time, I was happy to have a job because, they were the guys that were running the whole thing there. I had no relationship there. So it was in the breeze.
I'm gonna get you this. I'm gonna get this question right here. Hello, Steve and Ed. I was wondering who came up with the Zodiac character in WCW. In my opinion, it was one of the wackiest gimmicks of all time, and it looked like Ed really threw himself into the role. That's coming from Luke in Calgary, Alberta. And I remember the video. I guess that was King Curtis who was doing the talking because Kevin Sullivan was there, and I think someone else was there. But who came up with the Zodiac gimmick, and whose idea was it with the black and white paint? Elaborate on that, because I got to hear this.
Well, believe it or not, we were working on a movie called Mr. Nanny in Miami. Hulk was playing the part of this nanny that's got to take care of these two rich kids, brats, and he would have these flashbacks. And during the thing, and we were all part of the flashbacks, and the flashbacks would be his flashbacks to the wrestling business, and we had Neidhart, Hercules, me, and somebody, and first thing Terry says, Beefcake, you're too recognizable. We can't have you jumping off the thing on top of me. So I said, well, all right, and I went in with the makeup lady, and I had some old Beefcake shit from the Barber Shop with all cut and stuff, and I tiger stripe black and white. I said, what if we do this? What if we paint my face black and white and then make this little unicorn thing out of thing on my hair and slick it back, and you call me the Zodiac, and I go, yes, no. and it caught on. The people are now, I have more demand for it than ever. People ask him, about the Zodiac, and I got pictures of me and Paul Wright when we came in. He broke in Florida, basically, and I helped to just first training in the ring. It was Big Paul, 500-pound freaking 7-foot monster. It was hilarious, crazy stuff.
So you came up with that gimmick on a movie set, but it really reminded me a lot of Mark Lewin and the whole Purple Haze thing that Kevin Sullivan had done years earlier. Was there any inspiration from that?
That's even a little before my time, brother, probably, the Mark Lewin stuff. I mean, I knew Mark Lewin too. I never got to watch his stuff and his West Coast Hawaii stuff. I never saw that in Florida, but I knew the King from the old Florida stuff. Even like back when Greg's father was working, and Eddie was still working. Eddie Graham, those guys. I still remember that stuff. So, oh my God. Unbelievable.
All right, here's two questions, but they're kind of along the same line, so I'm gonna read them both together because I got both of them sitting here. Hey, can you ask Brutus if you knew how defining of a moment the Barber Shop segment would be on Shawn Michaels' career? And that's from Elliot in the UK, and it's followed up by, hey Steve and Brother Brutus, question for Brutus: what was it like being a part of the, if not the most infamous tag team splits of all time, when Shawn threw Marty through the Barber Shop window? And did you have a feeling it would be as memorable as it has been? I've heard Shawn and Marty's takes on it, but I've always wondered how you felt. And that was from Bill in Sacramento. So two questions, and they're both kind of pertaining to that famous barbershop segment when those two guys, Shawn turned heel, Marty goes through the window. Take us through that whole scenario.
That's cool. Well, I know what we were doing, and it was just, we didn't have a lot of, we had no rehearsals. We didn't have a lot of verbiage papers and the whole memorizing thing. I winged it out there all the time, Steve. So it really hardly knew how it was going to go. It actually did just go perfectly. It just went perfectly. I never really realized how really bad it was going to go for Marty. And then where Shawn slid into a spot, Triple H, boom, and then damn, he was made. But Marty stumbled and fumbled, and man, next thing you know, he was gone. He was out of a job, and Shawn was the rising star and doing the whole thing. And I don't know if they ever attended it to really be that way. I thought Marty was a hell of a worker, the best part of that team as far as working goes. And then all of a sudden, bam, he was gone. So I felt bad about that. I always just felt bad. I thought Marty deserved at least a better chance than he wound up getting after that whole thing. I don't even know why it all happened. Really don't.
Yeah, but let's just let's talk about just the actions, because obviously it was planned for him to go through the window and it was a heel turn. But it was one of those things that, because I was a fan of the business, and this was, I'm as old as Shawn Michaels, but he was in the business longer than me, so he was in the business, and I'm watching this as a fan, and I'm in the business. It came across as a pretty good shoot, almost like when I went to Brian Pillman's house with a gun. That came off so good, people thought it was over the top. But when Marty went through that window, people thought it was a shoot. So
yeah.
What was your thoughts just on that aspect of it? Because it was hard hitting to the hardcore fans of the Midnight Rockers.
Yeah, I was I'm feeling great about myself, and everything went so unbelievable. The people, it got over so strong. I was just honored to be a part of it. It happened. We pulled this off on the Barber Shop, and without tons of prep or anything, we just really went out there and did it. Just all guys are professionals, and went out and did our jobs, and it just couldn't have been better. You just, bam, you just like when you're interviewing, and you start up and you just hit it, bam, and that was the one. And then, you don't have to stop. You don't have to think it again. You you just move on to the next one. All right.
Hey, here's one for you, Brutus. Ed, it's a question for Brutus Beefcake. How much did you like your time in WCW in the 90s, wrestling under the various names, the Butcher, the Zodiac, the Disciple? You looked like you had fun when I saw you wrestling in WWE in the 80s, as it sounded like in your podcast with Steve Austin. I didn't see that fun in your wrestling when you were in WCW.
Wow, that's pretty good observation there on his part. I mean, not that I didn't. Well, I probably was enjoying it, but he's right. Yeah, the WWE days, WWF days, it was so great, and it wasn't as much fun. It just wasn't that tight bond. You never knew what you were really doing. You really had no set idea of where you're at and where you're going to, kind of thing, and so it never felt great. But at that point, as long as I was happy to have a job, I got a family, I'm collecting a check, and then until something presents itself, or you can make a break here or whatever, something better comes along, I'm going with the flow. Improvise, adapt, overcome, like the Marine Corps says, man. That's all I was about. Boom, bam, boom.
And that question was from Albert Hernandez down in Houston, Texas, and he also wanted to know, how was it wrestling with Greg the Hammer Valentine? He was one of the guys, or the heels, that Albert really hated. I guess, Greg was a very effective heel. So how was it, because you're talking about how old school he was at the beginning of the podcast, how was it working with Greg? Because, man, to me, like, Greg was, he'd kind of like, if you look up definition of a pro wrestler, you might see a picture of Greg the Hammer Valentine.
That's exactly true, brother. When I think about it in my head, and I see a picture of Greg, that's what I think. There's a perfect wrestler, not a well-built, good-looking kind of guy, but not a huge bodybuilding-looking guy. Just looks tough. And then Greg was a tough guy, and he had a reputation. They called him the Turtle. He moved slow. It took a little time to get Greg moving, but once you got him moving, and we had a great time together. He did show me the ropes around New York and the road in the early 80s when we were there in the city and places. I didn't know that area. The city's a little bit stressing. Man, Greg showed me all the right ways. Get to the highway, boom, boom, boom. So, man, I was always covered, but we were always together anyway. And we had a blast, man. We were rolling. Every place we went to, everywhere we went, the people would go, "Oh, you're them guys," and they'd buy our breakfast, they'd buy our drinks, they would buy, and we were even heels, so we were just, "Oh, well, yeah, we'll sign your thing. They're big, yeah, hey man, we'll buy your breakfast. Every diner we stopped at, we got free food, and we were even heels, so it was the greatest thing ever, man. We were having a ball.
Here, Brutus, here's another question. Brutus, being that you and Stone Cold are body guys, I don't know that I'd call myself a body guy. Can you and Stone Cold dissect your low-carb diet that had you ultra-ripped in WCW as a disciple? Hell, maybe even touch briefly on your favorite lifts or training routines. Well, I wasn't ripped and I'm not a body guy, but you've been in pretty good shape during your career. So what was your training routine like, and what was your diet like?
I think I was doing the Atkins. I was doing the high fat diet. I was 41 or something. That's pretty old to be like a metabolism diet because your metabolism is slowing down. But I was pretty lean. I got real lean on that diet. I was only about 220, brother. And I mean, but we were in the gym a lot, like supersets, giant sets and stuff, almost a cardio type of workout. Not lifting the heavy weights, but getting good pumps and stuff. And, I just remember standing out there one time with Earthquake. Geez, he was a giant guy and stuff. And I was standing next to him and I saw the picture and I was like, holy cow. At least I was tall enough to stand next to this guy and not look like a shrimp. I thought that was great because Earthquake, these guys are monsters. I'm saying it's one-man gang, and this guy's and that guy's are all 400 pounds. So you're like going – sometimes you feel like you're going, oh, my God. I'm a shrimp.
Hey, man, as far as myself goes, man, if you go back and look at the tape on me, and you depending on what my physique looked like, it depended on how hard I was running and whether I was we were on the road for weeks at a time, depending on how much I was drinking or how much I was staying out late. I'd try to get to the gym every day, but a lot of times when I wasn't making any money, especially down in USWA, I could pull my jeans off without unbuttoning them. And Matt Bourne looked at me one time. It's before showing USWA. I had just washed my clothes, and you know how you leave your clothes in the dryer to make them tight to just so they fit good?
Right, real hot.
Boy, I dried the shit out of them, and I got to the building, and my pants were all baggy because we called it the USWA back in those days, the Nutrisystem territory, because everybody that came there lost weight. And Matt Bourne looked at me with my baggy pants. He goes, God dang, Steve. He goes, why don't you wash your clothes? And I had to smart about the dude. I left my shit in the dryer overtime. I said, I can't hold no weight. I can't eat. I'm not making no money. So my physique kind of came and went depending on how hard, I was running on the road, drinking and just raising hell and all that. But as far as the diet goes, I was eating just anything and everything. But, you can go, whether you go into Denny's, Waffle House, IHOP, I mean, you can eat damn near, even you can go to McDonald's and eat clean if you just throw the buns away off the hamburger. So, but back again, and being in my mid-30s, dude, as active as we were in that ring, hardcore cardio, and we were still going to the gym, you could pretty much keep the fat off. And that's how I did it. But I never was a body guy. I thought I wanted to be a body guy when I first started my career, when I was trying to come up with a name. But my genetic predisposition was just to kind of, like you said, that Greg the Hammer Valentine look. Hey, Brutus, let's take a quick break. Before we take a break and come back to part 2 of the podcast, how can people find Strutting and Cutting?
At BrutusBeefcake.com. BrutusBeefcake.com.
And on Twitter at BrutusBeefcake _. All right, let's take a quick pause for the calls and give big ups to TrueCar. Now, if you're looking to buy a car, you're probably familiar with terms like MSRP. You might even know what it stands for. But what does it actually mean? The same goes for invoice, list price, and dealer price. Well, it's enough to confuse anybody. All you're really looking for is a price that actually means something. Introducing True Price from TrueCar. Now you can know exactly what you'll pay for the car you want, including fees and accessories, before you even get to the dealership. TrueCar dealers will show you the true price on cars like the one you want, all from the comfort of home. And how do you know if your true price is a great price? Because TrueCar shows you what other people paid for the same car you want. And your certified dealers know this, so they set their true price competitively so they can win your business. So when you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states. And don't forget the car insurance for that vehicle. Go to Geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right, guys. Save hundreds of dollars in car insurance at Geico.com. Extra money in your pocket, it may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
Podcast One has new shows on our new app. Check out all the cool features to help you explore our exciting new programming, like America's Lakers podcast with Jay Moore, So Random with Corinne Olympios, Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast, Not Just Sports with Susie Schuster and Rich Eisen, and Sessions with Randy Jackson, as well as your old favorites like The Lady Gang, Steve Austin, Shaquille O'Neal, and Adam Carolla. Get the new Podcast One app in the App Store, Google Play, or PodcastOne.com.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, back here taking a pause for the calls for sponsors. Keep this show on the air for free. I'm back with Ed Leslie, a.k.a. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, author of Strutting and Cutting. Brutus Beefcake wrote a book. You can pick it up at brutusbeefcake.com. Brutus, a couple more questions for you before we start shooting breeze about Japan.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
Here we go. Hey, Steve, this is Jason from Manila, and I was hoping that you could ask Ed the following questions. Before his parasailing accident, was Brutus really in line for a run with the Intercontinental Championship?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This was the second time. Actually, the first time was supposed to be in in 88. And the Warrior stepped in with a tantrum, and then Vince changed the pay-per-view at the last minute and put Warrior in there with Honky, and I went with Ron Bass and worked some angle right before the thing on TV, and where I got color. All the time. The cowbell, the old cowbell, Steve, boom, with put it easy. So, with Ron and I were friends. Ron was there when I first broke in 77, 76. And so being back with him was just like, in the arms of, the thing. He's going to take care of you. It's so easy to have a match. Just being in there with him. You don't have any when you're in there. You're just like, this is really fun, because you have to worry about this guy that's in there with you. And then that's the way, working with him. But it wasn't the same as getting the freaking belt, which I was supposed to get. And then I had to wait. And then with Mr. Perfect and I were ready to go. I beat him in WrestleMania, ending in the perfect streak, ready to go in for the kill. And then the July 4th, 1990, the guy killed, just didn't die. Thank God. It sure messed up my plans there a bit.
Hey, man, but when you're talking about working with Ron Bass, when I was watching that back, did he get color for you?
Yeah, I think in the second match, he might have got color. I can't remember, honestly. No, you know what? I'm sure he didn't, probably, because we finished it on in the Tampa Sundome, but it was a Saturday night main event. They said, Beefcake, you have more Saturday night main event coverage than any of the other guys. Why I was the favorite, but damn, that was on there. Hey, and that was good coverage, man. You can't buy that coverage, right?
Yeah, but just in looking at that and watching that match, he did that action with the cowbell. I thought he was carving up on you. But anyway, the second part of that question was, what does Brutus honestly think of his stint with the NWO, particularly the feud with the returning Ultimate Warrior? How did WCW compare with the WWF? And that's from Jason. So what did you think of your stint with the NWO, and particularly with that feud returning Ultimate Warrior?
Well, the NWO thing came about because of all the other gimmicks. They were saying, we need guys, we need guys, we need guys. Hulk went and goes, what about Beefcake, for crying out loud? The guy can work. He's had too many gimmicks. Can't repackage. Okay. Can't repackage. Okay. So took a little time off there. I dropped 40 pounds. It was from 250 down to 210, 215. Shred, grew the beard out, the long hair. Boom. Walked in the office. Everybody looked at me. Nobody had a clue it was me. So Hulk introduces me. Then, so we can't package Brutus. Okay, look, the disciple. Freaking shredded. Like, they were all going, okay. Then they were stuck with me. They had no choice.
Hey, let's go back to the one thing that happened in 90. It ties in with the Mr. Perfect question, which you kind of touched upon. This question is for Brutus. One thing that I never understood was what happened in 1990. Brutus had a match at WrestleMania 6 with Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. There wasn't any real build-up to the match. It seemed like more of a filler match. Brutus got the win, which at the time ended Perfect's 2-year undefeated streak on television. Hardly, if any, attention was given to such a big deal that this should have been. Perfect went into a program with Kerry Von Erich that summer, and Brutus had his accident that July. Was the original plan for Brutus to have a program for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam, and why didn't the announcers make a big deal out of Brutus ending Kurt's perfect streak? Thanks for entertaining me through the years, Rob Francois. Lengthy question there. Pick that into pieces if you can.
Yeah, geez. Well, no, there was definitely, the plan was for me to get the belt from Perfect, whether they, executed it as well as it could have been. It wasn't up to me. I just, kind of go with the flow. Try to do the best we can. If I got an idea, sometimes I try to throw it out there, hoping maybe if it's something good, they'll listen. We just did what we had to do there. It was me. I would have made a bigger deal out of the career and the streak and the whole thing, because they ripped it up for a long time. But that's just sometimes the way they were about it. Things they just did what they're going to do, and there wasn't nothing I could do to change it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just a thing where, a lot of times, even in today's product, I'll see something happen and they don't make a big enough deal about it, or they'll undersell something. Sometimes it's kind of beyond the talent, and the powers that be have a little bit more say in that. So I think that's probably what was the case there. Here's one. This is coming from Joey Image in Atlantic City, New Jersey. The run-ins you did on Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and others after your boating accident never seemed to go anywhere. What was the direction supposed to be, and who created the wacky masked outfit you wore to do these run-ins? Man, you had some crazy stuff going on there. And what happened with those run-ins? They never went anywhere. What was the game plan there?
They weren't ever going anywhere. All that was me testing the waters, brother. Basically, the doctor said unequivocally and absolutely under circumstances was I to wrestle, period. They didn't want me to drive a car. They said it's not safe for you to drive a car. So going back to wrestling, not part of the deal. Got no choice. It's all I've ever done my whole life. So it was testing the waters, going out there, jumping out there with, seeing how you're going to feel when somebody's throwing a fist at your face or a kick and things. And it's no time to go out there and then freak out or whatever and get hurt or hurt somebody without, checking it, testing the waters. And those were just test things. And basically after we did it, Vince and I talked, and he agreed that he thought he would give me a little more time to feel more comfortable before having to jump back. There wasn't any huge pressing things, but by this time, Perfect had already gone by. So to rush back in our time, we did the Barber Shop all the while I was training. I was up at like 260 then. Holy cow. I was in some of the best shape that I ever been in. I felt unbelievable coming back because I'd just been off and training now for like 12 months straight. I was down 60 pounds in the accident, and then I gained 65 pounds back, and I felt great. So we just waited, and then I went back, after the barbershop stuff.
Hey, here's a question. It says, this is from Joe Aguinaldo in Toronto. He says, I was a fan of the Honky Tonk Man. How did Brutus like working with HTM?
Well, me and Honky go all the way back to my first couple of years in the business, so I've known him forever, and we've been down the road a lot together. So, I never have a problem with Honky. When we see each other, it's just like we were seeing each other last week. It's just, you always just, that's just a brother of the road thing kind of going. So me and Honky are all good.
Hey, man, let's switch gears here and talk a little bit about Japan. Dude, how many times did you go over there?
I don't even know. I couldn't tell you exactly. It wasn't, a huge number, but I started going over there in 1980. Those tours were like 4-week tours. Brother, in 1980, there was one McDonald's, I think, in the country, and and I wasn't a big sushi or fish guy or noodle guy and everything. So that first tour I was over there, I ate a lot of spaghetti because that's the only other thing on the menu besides all the other stuff is some spaghetti Napolitano. But I mean, it was great. I came over and got to work. I never had to work with the young boys. They put me right in with Inoki and like it's a Mass Superstar or Slaughter's partner. I got to go in with the good main eventers and go in and work with the workers. It was, I mean, for me, it was great. I was the wild man, Ed Leslie. They call me. I was like a wild man. I ran around like missing link and shit, kind of crazy. Like, and I had a lifting belt. I'd chase the young boys and chase people around with a wrestling belt, with a lifting belt, and smack it on the ground and make a lot of noise and just act like a wild man. So that was kind of my 1980 Ed Leslie wild man gimmick.
But when you got in there and worked matches with guys, what was the communication process like? And were those guys, I'm sure the strong style was around back then, and their in-ring action was a little bit different than what was going on in America at the time. How did your work or your skill set translate over there?
You know, I was lucky, brother. That's all I can say. I was lucky, good, whatever, right timing. They put me with Sakaguchi. He was the big, he was a judo, like a gold medal, silver medal judo guy, you know, years before. And he was like the booker at the time. And they called him the Gooch. Brother, he was big. He was a good 6'6" and everything. And so Terry told me, he goes, you know, you put me with the Gooch, and you play your cards right, brother, you got to, you know, Gooch doesn't go more than like 4 minutes. Or 5 minutes. So you come over, you do 5 minutes for the Gooch a night. It's a night off, you know. So I did, brother. He told me what, you know, once he told me what I needed to do out there with the Gooch. Oh, boom, but don't hurt be a wild man. And so the Gooch is the Border Fair baby face, and I'm the wild man running out there. And then bam, he beats me 4 minutes. I don't hurt him. I was married to the Gooch for the rest of the time I was there. Never had to work with the young boys, and I knew I had a night off. So it was like the free tour, you know, at the time.
How did you like going over to Japan? I remember, I went for a couple of like 2-day trips where just wrestled one match. And then I was on an extended tour when I was over there for 3 weeks, and that's when I injured my tricep and had to have it reattached. And, man, those 3 weeks were absolutely brutal because, you know, I remember it was myself, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Haku, or Ming, and a couple other guys. Oh, Ron Simmons. And I tell you what, man, we were stateside guys. You know, we were U.S. guys, and we're used to traveling up and down the road in cars and stuff like that. All of a sudden, you get over to Japan, dude, you're in a bus with a bunch of guys, and you ain't got all your devices and the things that you're normally, you know, doing on the road. And me and Arn were about to go crazy. I mean, we drank so much beer. I think Ron was drinking beer with us. We were drinking so much beer. It was unbelievable because, dude, we were used to being in a hotel, or like I said, I was used to being in the lobby and the bar. And you're in Japan, you're rusting all these cold-ass buildings and ain't got no technology. And it was brutal. And, you know, the crowd is totally different. I mean, I love to watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan back in the day with Hanson, Brody, all those guys, the Funk Brothers. But, dude, being there, wrestling in Japan, to me, it was a blast watching Eddie and Dean and Chris and watching those guys have matches in the ring. I mean, I enjoyed working. I always enjoy working anytime they ring the bell. I preferred working the United States because I was used to working a U.S.-based crowd. My question to you, what was your deal for a survival mechanism? Because like you said, you know, I wasn't a big sushi guy back in the day. I was eating the spaghetti Napolitano, whatever you call it, the red sauce. The one thing that saved my ass, we could go eat yakitori chicken and you could get beer out of a Coca-Cola, like a Coke machine. You could get beer at any hour of the night.
That's great. Exactly what I was going to say. The Korean barbecue and the yakitori place you're talking about, you can go and get chicken or meat and throw it on a little grill and eat that with some vegetables, and at least you know what you're eating. And then you could get these Coke machine giant that sell these huge freaking good, like 8-point beers, good strong Japanese beer, not just some weak candy ass shit. This shit was real good Japanese beer, man. You get those big beers. I always had a pouch full of coin. Anytime I saw one of the machines, I'd be going, stop the bus. And then everybody would be going, oh, yeah, all right. Out of way. Good call, man. Boom, we would all be off that bus. In that machine, we'd clean out the whole machine. But we'd all be in the beer, having a beer in the bus now after, because those were the days.
On those tours when you were working over there, other than working with the Gooch, who were the main event guys there at that period in Japan?
Inoki is the head guy. You got the Gooch, what was the other guy's name? There was 2 or 3 different guys, and they all wound up in the Fujinami. Fujinami was this other top guy. But, I mean, they put me in there with Superstar Billy Grant, with the Masked Superstar. Back then, I mean, Hogan was Inoki's partner. At first, he wrestled Inoki at first, but then they turned him babyface. And then, like, later tours I went over, I'd be wrestling in matches. Because my wife found a picture, showed me a picture of Hogan slamming me in Japan. I was like, man, I don't even remember that. But, yeah, because I was lucky and wrestling the main events, brother. Wrestling the main events for the New Japan was a breeze because all the guys could work. It wasn't like having to fight a little bit back then with the shooters and some of the mid matches and stuff. Some of the other shooters, some of the older guys, you never know, they're going to test you in there. I mean, I heard, I had been there and saw the whole deal, and I was just lucky. They just put me with these guys, and I just rose to the occasion, and boom, and I was there. And what a good ride it was, though, to not having to fight your way up through all.
I'd always heard that, hey man, a lot of times those Japanese guys are going to try to stiff you, try to make you, they'll test you. And I never had a bad experience over there. But it turns out like before the match, the young boys are out there training and they're shooting on each other. And those first 1 to 3 matches are damn near a shoot because they're not doing a whole lot of high spots and they're laying all their shit in and they're paying their dues. Then all of a sudden when you get in there with the Hiroshi Hasu's, the Great Mutas, all the top guys. So then, dude, it's like Ricky Morton. I mean, it's like, nothing hurts. But at a certain level, you'll either get that mid-range guy who wants to test you or the young boys who are full of piss and vinegar and just trying to learn the business. And it makes shit look legit. But I was always fortunate that I never got anybody who wanted to test me. Hey, I would have tested back, but I'll never forget on the 3rd night of that tour, it was a 3-week tour, I jumped off the top turnbuckle on a Japanese guy. I can't remember who it was. He rolled out of the way. He was supposed to. And my right arm bent up underneath me, and I tore my tricep off my arm. Oh. And so, dude, I was wrestling with a torn tricep. And I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but it kind of sucks and it hurts. But you don't go home because this is Japan. So to help me out, I wrestled a couple of singles matches after that, but they protected me. I did tag matches with Arn Anderson, and I did 6-man tags with Arn and Ron. And it was so funny. One night we were in there, and I think we'd been out drinking a lot, as you would with a torn tricep. Oh. And I tagged out, and Arn and I were on the apron, and Ron Simmons was in there just sending in those Japanese guys and clotheslining them and slamming them, backdropping them. Arn looked at me, and he goes, God damn it. He always called me Hog. He goes, God damn, Hog. I'm glad that's not you or me. Nobody tried to test Ron Simmons out there. It was absolutely hilarious. You had to be there to see Arn's delivery. But, man, if you ever seen an opponent with eyes this big because Ron Simmons was on fire, it was a come-to-Jesus meeting.
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you, there's a quick funny story if I can. Later, after all this, in WWF days, they sent me and Paul Orndorff as a tag team to Japan for like a couple of weeks. And so we go over there, and Paul is just like wound so tight, and we're trying to go to have some lunch, and he's just like all over the little mama-san, scaring her to death, and he's just rah, rah. I'm like, Jesus, Paul, and I go to my bag. I get out something special, and I said, open your mouth, and boom, I threw something in his mouth. He got some beer, and about 10, 15 minutes later, all of a sudden, nice Paul came back, and I was like, okay, you all right, brother? Okay, all right. We ordered food. We had a great great time. So I knew it had to happen every day. So every day I was right there to take care, make sure they get him through the day. And we went to the arenas every night, and me and him, they had all the weights, and me and him, geez, we were both these 255, 260-ish. And, so we're over there, and we're training, we're pumping up and everything. And they got us with mid-card guys. We're not wrestling the main events. They're just giving us wins or whatever for the TV or whatever they're doing. So we go in there with the middle guys. And Paul, he ain't selling shit. So if he ain't selling, I ain't selling. So we go out there, and the poor guys, we didn't hurt nobody, but we just hammered these young boys. I'm telling you. You remember what Paul, we just hammered these poor guys. So after the match, the Masao Hattori speaks perfect English, Japanese guy. Used to live on the next street from me, Steve, in Tampa, Florida. Masao comes in. Oh, you guys, come on, man. And we're like, what? He goes, oh, you guys, oh, you too stiff. Paul and I are looking at each other, and I'm going, where's the cameras? You got to have, this is the first time in history that the Japanese boys are telling the American boys that they're too stiff. And I'm telling you, we were dying. We're laughing. Okay. Yeah, no problem. The next night, we were even stiffer. Oh, bam! He's back in there again. Oh, you too stiff. You can't do this, And we fought, buddy. We pummeled. These were kids out there. We just pummeled them from the start to the beginning, from the beginning to the end. And then finally, then we started working with them and selling them and shit, and having little matches with them and shit. But those first couple of matches were just the most fun I've ever had in my life. Because Paul, I had the wild man Paul Orndorff next to me,
and Paul was an intense individual. We used to travel up and down the road together, and Paul could be very intense.
Oh yeah. I was lucky to have been able to been there and have the formula to calm him right down and get us through the day. We have great workouts every night, have a match, boom, and then we go out to eat and have some sake or whatever, even some sochu or whatever, and then boom, into the next day. We had our little sequence down. Adrian, he was over there with Murdoch. They were tagging those two up for a while. I don't know if you remember that, and so he was over there. We were in, I don't know if we were in South Japan. We're in a nice, beautiful building, like brand new, everything, boom. And the boys are all in the room, and Adrian comes and he goes, hey, you guys, you got to see this. Come on, I got to show you something. And everybody's like, what? He goes, no, really, you got to see this. I got to show you something. Come on. And so a bunch of us, he runs us around the corner, down the hall, and into the men's bathroom. There's a nice shower, the whole thing. And he throws open the door of a stall in the bathroom. And I don't know on God's earth how he did it, but there was shit on the wall from like a point all the way around, like 180 degrees, spray on the wall of the bathroom, running all down. And he had done that. And that's what he brought us in there to show us. There's shit spray in the bathroom. And couple of the Japanese guys came around the corner and looked, and they were running out choking and started puking and throwing up and shit. And it was like, oh my God, Adrian, how in God's name could you do? How did you spray the walls with shit?
What did he say?
I've never said. He didn't say anything. He was just laughing. He was, because over there, everybody, we were drinking all the time anyway. So he just thought that was the funniest thing ever. Watching the Japanese boys throwing up and shit. The shit smell was just beyond anything I've ever seen.
Jesus Christ. Going back to you and Paul being stiff on the Japanese guys, that's the first time I've ever heard a story of the Japanese telling the Americans they're working too stiff, because I'm shuddering to think what it would be like in all Japan if Brody and Hansen are kind of working like they were and getting over like monsters. What were they saying over there? Because those guys used to kill people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, Brody was no lightweight, brother. He was a great thing for our business, man. People watched him. They were believers.
Did you ever get a chance to know Brody very much?
No, I didn't. I only got to meet him a few times, just here and there passing. Never really spent any time with him, but I watched his work and stuff, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, this guy's for real. But when you're as big as he was and everything, you just, hey, just you got your advantage, you got your thing. When you find out what your thing is, you got it, use it, and that's what he did.
I used to come through Dallas. I was going to college at North Texas State University. And I was driving up to the Sportatorium to watch the Von Erichs fight the Freebirds, and Brutus come in on a card here or there, just tear the joint down, beat the shit out of somebody. I mean, he's just the whole character, the gimmick. I mean, that guy can work his ass off, and he never got tired. And he's going to
be in the ring, out of the ring, into the crowd, back out of here. He'd be all over the building. You could never tire that guy out. he'd be all over the building. There'd be chairs flying. He'd be all over the building. But that's what got him over. The people, they knew, I always thought that being the heel thing, if you really master being a good heel and learn the heel, then that's the secret to being a good babyface. And so the heel kind of simultaneously to a babyface, depending on the circumstance. I think that's what Brody could do. If he needed to be, he could be a good guy, as badass as he was. Or he could come in, just be the bad guy and just beat the dog shit out of everybody, which he did, and just leave everybody laying and just, have so much heat, real heat. You don't see it like that anymore. It's not the same.
Well, hey man, how is Strutting and Cutting doing?
Well, it's doing good. We're getting, we're doing good. I think we're on Amazon.com now.
Beautiful. You got any appearances coming up in the sports book?
I have. I'll be up in New York, like 4 or 5 days up around New York, New Jersey, different parts. Some other stuff coming up. Geez, I probably should have wrote that down for myself here. But, we got a new addition coming to the family. Missy's daughter is going to have a little baby boy. And so I'll be in Boston for a little, in February for that. And then we just got lots of stuff going. We're going around trying to set up maybe some stuff for like a little book tour, when I'm in certain cities, maybe New York and stuff, do a signing and stuff. So tell everybody keeps an eye on BrutusBeefcake.com and stuff, and they can find out, or on Twitter. Because I'm doing Twitter all the time. So we're wherever we're going to be, whenever it is, boom, we'll be tweeting it up, and the people know.
Okay, at BrutusBeefcake _
BrutusBeefcake _, yeah.
Ed, good catching up with you again.
Oh man, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. It's been great, and it's such an honor. And things are doing great. And I'm sure this is going to really help, really give us a good kick in the butt. And we're rocking, man. I can't thank you enough.
Hi, I'm Danny LaRue, host of Real GM Radio, where every week I go in depth on NBA basketball through conversations with some of the brightest basketball minds out there, including Kevin Pelton, Nate Duncan, Chris Herring, Tim Bontemps, and team experts from all around the league. We try to separate the truth from the noise for players, teams, and NBA draft prospects alike, with a focus on the basketball itself. If you want to know what is coming next in the NBA and why, there's no better place to turn than the weekly episodes of Real GM Radio. You can find us exclusively at PodcastOneSports.com or the new Podcast One app, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts.
All right, before we wrap this show up, let me tell you how to protect what matters with ADT and their Safer, Smarter New Year's sales event. For a limited time, get an ADT Security Starter Kit. Everything you need to get started with ADT Pulse, including a security panel and keyboard, a motion sensor, and 2 entry sensors, plus an indoor camera and a key fob, all professionally installed for only $49. That's almost $600 in savings. It comes with the confident feeling of safety at home. Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Hurry, as this special offer ends January 21st.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset and get out here and enjoy this rainy day. Jump in my garage here and trade chest, shoulders, and triceps. Going heavy today. Loading up on crit and got the diet dialed in. Trying to put on a little bit of mass. Going to be a good workout. Get your workout in, maintain your consistency. And I'm going to get my cardio in right after that. Before I ride off in the sunset, I want to give you guys a couple of plugs. ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all of my T-shirts for the Broken Skull Ranch, and you can find them at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. Folks, if you're thirsty and you're looking for an IPA, I got a good one. Broken Skull IPA at El Segundo Brewing Company. Check them out at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in Cali. If you don't live in Cali, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking to get a badass pocket knife, which I highly suggest that everyone have in today's day and age, hey, check out the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the Cold Steel Working Man's knife, and you can get them at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. I want to say thank you one more time to the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. And speaking of Podcast One, the new Podcast One app is now available for download at the App Store or Google Play. There ain't another podcast app like this one anywhere, and that's because the new Podcast One app is loaded with some cool features that let you do a lot more than just listen to your favorite shows. You can access behind-the-scenes photos, articles, and connect with other fans of the shows you like. And you can watch over 1,000 360 virtual reality videos. You can actually watch some of your favorite shows in virtual reality. It's like you're sitting right in a room with them. So get to the App Store or Google Play and download the new Podcast One app now. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.